Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Oh, gotta get that right. All right. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you so much. As always, I'm Lucas Alvarez, and I'm here with Meg Link. And together we're hosting December's AIGA Atlanta Insider. So as you know, we both are on the in-house committee for the Atlanta chapter. I currently work for G&A, a sustainability consultant, and help companies navigate their way to sustainability. Meg?
And I'm a freelance designer who's worked in-house for many years. And
Awesome.
I'm very excited for today's guest.
Yes, this is a really exciting one. So happy to have everybody here today. So today, like we said, we have a great interview with Insung Kim. He's the creative senior director for the 2021 World Champion Atlanta Braves. Since joining the team in Atlanta in 2016, Insung has built up a creative team that produces creative for all the Braves marketing campaigns, manages the Braves brand across all platforms, and creates graphics and signage for Truist Park and the Battery of Atlanta. So a whole bunch of stuff that we'll get into today. He's responsible for the look and feel of the Braves brand and also works with the league on updates to the team's uniforms, which is also really cool, what we'll talk about. All things we'll dive deeper into in this exciting conversation and cover the amazing season that the Braves had this year. So before we dig into the conversation, we want to thank Atlanta AIGA In-House Committee. We're small but mighty. We work in-house, or even if you work in-house or you have a vested interest in in-house, please reach out to me. I'm always looking for new talented people who would love to help in Atlanta. And if in-house isn't for you, we have plenty of other spots here in Atlanta at AIGA. So feel free to check out for my information online at atlanta.aiga.com, and you can find my contact information there. So look forward to hearing from you, and thanks again for joining. So for now, I'm going to hand it over to Amy for our market minutes. Amy?
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Mangan with Robert Half Marketing and Creative, and I'm sorry if you hear hammering. Okay, so doing the last market minute of 2021. I can't even believe it. It is crazy. So happening in Atlanta on the next slide, the team at Hootsuite is moving into the Midtown Tech Square space. So that's pretty exciting. Probably some of you are publishing some of your content out on Hootsuite as we speak. So if you're looking for a job, might be a good place to kind of keep in mind to see if they have any roles that could be a fit. And then on the next slide, we did some research about how the pandemic is going to potentially affect the traditional 9-to-5 long term. And 41% of managers are actually allowing staff to set their own schedules at this point, and will continue to do that moving forward. We've seen a premium put on needing to allow windowed working, to allow people to just be really autonomous in how they're planning their day, given all of the new stresses that we've added over the last 2-ish years. So that's working to help retain top talent, but also helping to attract new top talent to teams as well. So the companies and teams that are most likely to allow this kind of very flexible, free-flowing situation tend to be larger companies. And oftentimes it does include marketing and creative departments, which we're seeing, with a lot of our clients locally in Atlanta. Workers are feeling that they're too busy to unplug. So 72% say they need at least 8 hours a day to get their job done still. And 43% of folks are saying they're attending more video meetings now than they were even 6 months ago, which to me is crazy, because with all the research and everything we know now about how these meetings can be a real drain on our day and on us actually getting productive work done. I would say as a manager, if you can find ways to minimize that for your team and yourself, please, be proactive there and getting those down to a minimum. And then 48% of folks say they feel like they can never really disconnect during work, like business hours, that they're just always on the go. Even if they're on a walk, they're still like in Teams or, in their Slack channel messaging and things like that. So here are 3 tips to protect your time. So speak up if you're feeling overwhelmed. It is super important that you are proactive in that communication with your leadership so that you can proactively avoid any burnout ahead of time. And if you get to a point of burnout, it's sometimes too late at that point, right? So just be really proactive in that communication. communication. Schedule and attend virtual meetings judiciously. Obviously, cancel them when you can, or use the recording feature to catch up like when you have time later. I know a lot of times, little secret, I'll put those recordings on while I'm doing a household task and I'm still listening and I'm taking in the info, but I'm doing two things at once. So it's really, those are good to be able to buy yourself some time back in your day. And then lastly, make sure you're communicating your hours of availability to colleagues, almost like professors' office hours, right? Like, hey, if you have questions, I have this time blocked out on my schedule. Feel free to, send me a meeting invite. And also put breaks on your schedule, not just your lunch break, but you're going to want a cup of tea at 3 o'clock every day. Put it 15 minutes on there. Buy yourself little breaks within the day that you would have naturally had if you were in the office, that maybe now, because your calendar looks open, you're not really getting anymore. So that's super important. The next slide, we're kind of changing gears, but talking about the holidays. So every year at the end of the year, Robert Half does a survey. This year was over 4,300 respondents on LinkedIn. This was at the beginning of November. So people's answers may have changed after some of the latest news having to do with COVID over the last week. But at the time, 49% of people said hard pass. I am not interested in celebrating the holidays with my coworkers, which does make me chuckle. And only 38% said they were interested in an in-person party. Again, who knows if that number would change kind of now with the latest news this week. 7% said they'd love to do a charitable activity with their team. So maybe like donating time, volunteering together, which I love that idea. And then 6% said they were interested in a virtual gathering. So that number's not very high. Maybe pull your team if you're planning on something like that. Just wanted to share this info with you though, so that your team is actually feeling like they're being celebrated and feted and not forced into anything at the end of the year this year. So I can't believe that this is it for the Market Minute, and I'm going to keep it short and sweet because I know we're really excited to hear from our special guest Insung. So if you need anything from me, there's my contact info, or hit me up on LinkedIn. And with that, I'm going to hand it to Lucas.
Awesome. Thank you as always, Amy, and great information there, especially the taking the break. We talk about that a lot on a lot of our interviews, scheduling that time for yourself. Anyways, now on to the main event. Welcome, Insung. You want to join us?
Hi.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me on. This is great. I'm so excited to talk to you guys and share what we experienced this year. It was really cool.
Very excited for that. So as just a little background here, it was a real pleasure discussing your journey with you, especially over this year. Very excited to talk about that. But just for some background for everybody here, prior to joining Atlanta Braves, you worked as a senior designer at Popaloose in Kansas City, an architectural firm specializing in designing stadiums and sports venues, which you can see the connection there. Far from where he calls home now, he grew up in Southern California and received a BFA in Communication Arts at Otis College of Arts and Design in Los Angeles. So now back to the present. Today, we're going to dive into what it was like to work with the Braves in this past year, and both started off under the COVID conditions and ended up in a triumph at the World Series. So super cool contrast here. Insung, before we dive into 2021, I was hoping maybe you could give us a brief overview of what the year was leading up to this one. So starting in 2016.
Okay, so I started in LA, and a lot of my coworkers were giving me a lot of crap for growing up a Dodger fan, especially when we play the Dodgers in the postseason. But I mean, I'm Braves through and through now. They pay my bills. Also, you meet the guys and you just love the team. You love the guys on the team. So I'm 100% in. So yeah, my journey was an interesting one where I grew up in Southern California and worked at Populous as a designer, working on graphics for football stadiums, ballparks, basketball arenas. And then I was working on this project, Truist Park. And at the time in 2016, the Braves didn't have an in-house creative team. So our new VP of marketing, Adam Zimmerman, and our CEO, Derek Schiller, wanted to bring it in-house because they saw the advantages of having an in-house creative team. And all other MLB teams and other sports teams were doing the same thing, because the advantage of having an in-house team, as a lot of people on this call know, is that you've got someone that's dedicated to your brand and is able to service all the different needs that come up in the organization, right? Anything from like high level, business objectives to even small things like, we need a flyer for, a Christmas party that we're having, right? So it's like, you need somebody who's able to, service everybody in the organization. And the trend that's happening now is a lot of people are starting to see the advantages of having great creative, which is awesome. But then what happens is now everybody wants it, right? So you've got to have the bodies to be able to produce all that. So our team. So I came in and then I built up a small core team. And so right now, if you can believe it, we have four of us doing everything for the organization. So myself, got a design manager, full-time designer, and an intern, and we crank out so much work. And I think the way we're able to do that is we figure out ways to be really efficient, but then we also figure out ways to flex our creative muscles when we can, and really have fun. I think everybody knows how it is now with, like, if you've got an ad, right, you've got to do 25 different versions of that same ad for, like, for Google, for social, for everything else. So, I try to make sure that my team doesn't get burned out, that they're just like on rinse and repeat with these ads. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of in a nutshell of the journey and kind of what we're doing now.
Very cool. And I mean, you've seen a lot of transition too, because you were down at the original park downtown, right? And you saw it transition all the way through SunTrust to Truist. So that's pretty cool, getting to see all that in such a short time.
Yeah, my first season in 2016 was like the final year at Turner Field, and then coming up here. So it's like, oh wow, I got to see the full thing, and it's really, really interesting to see.
Very cool. So, I mean, obviously, talking about this year and a little bit of the year before, during the height of COVID, you probably had a lot of different design needs or challenges. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the experience there.
Yeah, just working in sports was really interesting, and just like the rest of the country and the rest of the world, everybody was experiencing the same uncertainties, and what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to, in sports or in baseball, we didn't know if we were going to start the season with fans in the ballpark, and then we had last year where we had nobody in the ballpark, right? So this year we started off in opening day with very limited capacity, and then so our team was tasked with creating all the signage around the ballpark that that tells you, like, A-frame signs that tell you here's the mass required, and here's the hand sanitation stations and all that type of stuff. So it was a lot of work to get everything ready for something that you weren't sure of.
Yeah.
And but the thing that was really good for myself and my team is, like, you just learn to be flexible and you learn to be prepared. It's more work, but you've got to be able to adapt and adjust. And to me, that's the takeaway that I learned from this past year, and is that you just got to be adaptable and be prepared for any situation. And I think that carried over into into our postseason, because who knows what's going to happen in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that was another question. In terms of brainstorming around what you're doing, you gotta be quick and nimble. I guess it goes back to the in-house thing too, why it's so important, especially for a sports team, to have it in-house. Because are they winning or losing? So how
Right.
do you brainstorm around that and create campaigns for both, essentially, depending on what's going to happen?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm sure a lot of in-house creatives on this call right now, you're working like way ahead, right? So like right now, I'm sure everybody's working on what the what next year's campaign is, what the spring, summer, even fall campaigns are right now, right? And in sports, we do the same thing. We're working ahead for next season and getting, thinking ahead of like, hey, what's the campaign going to look like? What's the look and feel? However, in sports, there's so much there. Again, there's uncertainty, right? We don't know if the team's going to start off really slow or start off really well. They're hot, they're on a winning streak or they're on a losing streak. So sports is kind of an interesting animal because you've got to be able to adapt to all those things. So a campaign and the idea, the slogan that you had come up with, can all be thrown out the window. And now you've got to adjust and be able to create something on the fly that works with the team and it fits the right tone of what the fans are looking at, right? Because if your campaign is all about like, hey, we're winners and we're awesome and all that stuff, right? And then the team is like playing really bad, it doesn't look great. That's like you're totally missing the mark. So you've got to be able to adjust. And then the other thing is in baseball, it's a long season. It actually starts in February in spring training, and then you've got opening day. Then you've got summer when school lets out for vacation. Then you've got the All-Star game coming up with voting, and then you go into postseason. So within the long baseball season, there's mini seasons. So as we prepare for the season, we start looking at, okay, what's the look and feel going to be for opening day? What's the look and feel going to be for all-star voting and everything else? And then you just kind of adapt and adjust as the season goes on.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it seems obviously very challenging to develop multiple campaigns for each individual campaigns that you have all year. So I'm guessing there's some kind of, like you said, pivoting and open-endedness to the campaigns. Like do you do any like ideas around this is for winning and this is if we're losing, or you just go straight forward and just say this is what we really want to do and then change it as you adjust?
I would love to say we've got one for each scenario for the season, but for the regular season, we create something that is that's a little bit more general, and then as things happen during the year, we sit down with the marketing team, with the social media team, when we talk to them, and then we kind of get a sense of the vibe of the direction that they're thinking. And this is a whole team effort. So we work very closely with the marketing team. I mean, we even have meetings with the media relations team, and those are the guys that are with the players all the time. So they're giving us input and feedback on like, hey, what's the general mood of the clubhouse, right? So are there players who players are just like excited about, they feel like even though we're off to a slow start, they feel optimistic. We get input from baseball ops, so it's more general. And then to answer your question, it's a little bit more general, and then we adjust as needed.
That makes sense. Cool. So on that note of what you're designing, what are the components of a campaign that you guys do? I mean, there's social, of course, and then general collateral that you'll do around the stadium. But could you expand a little bit about what those are? I know they're set up into the future. So
yeah, it's so the thing that a lot of people see are the social graphics that we put out. We work closely with the social media team. So for each game, we'll either have a template or have a designer that's watching the game and creating graphics, taking photographs from our photographers. So you'll see the Braves win graphic after the game, or Freddie Freeman goes 3 for 4 and hits a home run. We'll create that, and our social team will post that up. And then the other big thing that we do is all the digital marketing that we do. So all the ads that we create for Google, for Quantcast, for on portals. So those are the ads that you see when you go to Braves.com, and so you see a series of ads. So it's a lot of digital ads, and we've actually pulled back on a lot of print ads and put a lot of our focus on digital ads, just because you can track the effectiveness of those, and yeah, and I'm sure everybody else is doing something very similar, right? But again, the disadvantage to those is, like, you've got so many different versions of an ad that you need to create, so it's a lot more work. But I think it's great because we're able to target the ads to people who are actually interested, people who are Braves fans, or people who are interested in coming out to the ballpark. And then there's the handful of print collateral that we do. So each game, when a fan comes to the game, they get a playbill, which is a small little mini program with a list of all the players. There's usually an article in there, and then we got the big yearbook that we put out. So, and I'm trying to think what else. I mean, there's so much that we do. It's a lot. It's fun. It's like when I was growing up, I grew up a baseball fan, and when I got offered the opportunity for this job, I was thinking to myself, like, well, there's only 30 Major League Baseball teams, and I'm one of 30 creative directors for a team, so that's kind of cool. So it was something that I couldn't pass up, and I just remember when I was a kid looking at baseball cards and thinking how cool it would be to design the card, or like the uniform to the hats or something like that.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about the uniform in a little bit too. So that's pretty cool that you got to where you're at. In terms of also the campaigns, obviously you're doing the digital ads and stuff, but we talked specifically about how you get your inspiration and how you share that with your team. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's been really interesting since I've been working here. I kind of worked in sports at Populous, but once I worked for a team, I started to realize, oh wow, there's a whole like sub design culture of like sports creatives, right? So there's all the designers that work for NFL teams, for NBA teams, for MLB teams, and everybody, all the other different sports, right? And so there's a certain I'd say there's a certain style of graphics that when you think of or when you see. And then so, after about 5 years, I was like, you know what, I think I wanted to step back, and I told my team, hey, let's look to other sources for inspiration. So once a week, our team will get together, and I'll ask them, hey, bring something that you saw, and it could be anything this week, and share it. And it can't be sports. So it could be a book cover, it could be an album cover, it can be a movie or a movie poster. It could be anything, right? That's not sports. So we do that once a week, and it's been really interesting because we'll get some interesting things that we review, and then each designer will present it, and then they'll talk about what inspired them from whatever they brought. So Ashley Alphin, our design manager, this year she presented this painting by the Spanish artist, and it had this abstract geometric shapes that was overlaid on top of black and white portrait photos. And I was like, that's really cool. It's so different. And so I said, hey, let's run with that. Let's take that idea and be inspired by that, and let's use that for our Los Bravos campaign that we did for Hispanic Heritage Month. So we took that idea and then we expanded it, and it was so cool because it was so refreshing from the stuff that we had done the entire year. And I think our fans enjoyed it because it was different. It was and we could do that because it was for a different subject matter that we were promoting for the year. So I think 2022 I want to do more of that, and I think it's a great way to kind of break through the noise with all the other sports graphics that you see.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I think as a designer, I'm guilty. We've all been kind of stuck in a silo if you're working particularly in-house on a particular subject. So making sure to set that time aside is like critical. It creates amazing new design. So love that blend of culture there. Very cool. Okay, so now, obviously this year was really special. The Braves won the World Series. That's huge. So let's talk a little bit about some of the design successes that you had, not just the Braves winning. And there was one particular that stood out. So do you mind talking a little bit about the painted cleat story and how that came about?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. That's one thing that I'm super excited about. In our intern actually worked on it, and he got a real kick out of it. So this year, because of COVID, we did not get to go down to Florida in spring training to shoot, to be there to shoot photos of our players. And usually when we're down there, we'll have different country flags. And for Latin American players, we'll give them the flags, and we'll do a special photo shoot for them. And then we'll use those images to promote Hispanic Heritage Month in September. This year we did not get to do that, so I was thinking about it, and I said, what's a way to tell that story of each player without having photos? So Atlanta has a really burgeoning sneaker culture, and the players are young dudes, and they're into it. So I thought, hey, let's take a generic player cleat. And then I talked to our media relations folks, and they got some intel on the players. So they said, hey, Jorge Soler has a real sweet tooth, so he loves candy, right? And then Ozzy Albi loves his dog Poochie. So we got all this information from the players, and then I assigned our intern to take just a generic white cleat and create a graphic for it based on the information that we had. And then, so we did it for about 12 different players. And then we put it up on social. And then our VP of marketing, Adam, saw it. He's like, man, these are so good. We got to actually get those cleats done. And this was like, 2 weeks ahead of Los Bravos Day on September, I think, 16th. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, how are we going to actually get cleats done? Because I'm just nodding my head like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Peter Moylan, who's a Bally Sports, one of the broadcasters for our on our telecast, his wife actually she paints shoes, right? So she has a little side business. So we reached out to her and said, hey, Mandy, would you be willing and interested in painting cleats for us? And she's like, yeah, I'd love to do that. I said, like, we got 12 of them. She's like, oh yeah. And so, but she was awesome. I think she got about 7 of the 12 cleats done. I picked up the slack and finished the other part. So I had to bust out my my paints and paintbrushes and got them done. And it was really cool. It was really fun. And we had a photo shoot where we showed the players like an unboxing video where they got to see their shoes for the first time. We captured that content. And it was really cool to see the players really appreciated what we did. But the best part was, so we give the players their cleats on the final game of the season, and a lot of them were like, "Hey, can we wear these?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, go for it, wear it." So Jorge Soler wore his cleats with the different candy on the soles, and then he crushed a bomb in the first inning, and he was wearing those cleats. And everybody, like our whole design team, was freaking out. We're like, "Oh, that's so awesome! He's wearing those shoes, and we've got photos, and you can see the shoes." And so it was really fun to see.
That's super cool. Yeah, I mean, talk about a design success. Those are the best things, especially you look at your product and you get to see it in action like that, especially in the World Series. That's super awesome. Very cool story. On your team. I mean, you talked briefly about it, but how big is your team actually, and how is it set up? Yeah.
So it's 4 of us right now. Myself, the creative director, Ashley Alphin, the design manager, Daniel Easley, the graphic designer, and then Nick Loy is an intern, or we call them trainees in our office.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, yeah, 4 people. That's such a small team, but powerful team to be able to do all this on the fly. Again, goes back to that in-house. If you don't have it in-house, that'd be so hard to get things done so rapidly. It makes a lot of sense.
We do. We will work with contract or freelance designers when we can. And then the other thing that we do is we also, we have special projects where we'll collaborate with different artists for special things. Like we did a poster project this year and and in 2019 where I got to work with different artists. Britt, we actually worked with Britt on a poster for Hank Aaron this year, which was awesome. And that her poster sold out in like a week. So it's always fun collaborating with different creatives.
Definitely. And so when you're working with your team and collaborating with other team, obviously things have to come out really rapidly. How do you set up your team for that success? I mean, do you have, we talked briefly about it, but about being able to make things on the fly and then having them approved, that doesn't necessarily work. You have to just kind of do them. So how do you have that set up to make that happen?
Yeah, so man, it varies. So we have different levels of projects, right? There's like the high level projects where you know, it's one of our key projects that we have to execute and make sure that it's successful. Then we have the lower level projects that you know that I tell my team, hey, make sure that you do a kick-ass job, but you know, you don't need to spend, you know, 4 days working on this.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of kind of us being able to look at the overall picture and being able to find out, okay, here's a project where it's really important. We need to make sure that we dedicate the time to spend on and work on it and make sure that it looks really good. And then here's another project where you know, it's not as important because we do so many of these throughout the year that we've got a template that we can use. So for example, we do a lot of group events. So we sell a lot of group tickets to churches, to different college groups, et cetera, right? Well, we've got a flyer template that we can just plug in and put their information on. So, you know, using templates like that saves us a lot of time, and that allows us to our team to focus our time and energy on something that's more important, like, you know, our season ticket campaign for our premium season ticket holders, because those are worth millions of dollars, right? So it's just a matter of us being able to be smart in how we delegate our time.
Gotcha. Yeah, prioritizing something that can be templatized versus something that needs more attention, and yeah, sharing that. That makes sense. And in terms of like copywriting too, is that something that you guys do internally, or do you, when you make the post, okay, you send it and then the digital team does it? Or
Yeah. So our for copywriting for our ads, our marketing team creates all that for us. So our director of marketing, Brad Merriweather, is a very talented writer. So he'll come up with really good copy for that. And then, but the great thing is it's a collaborative effort, right? So if he writes something and then our team gets that and we look at it and we go like, you know what, I think that's not the right tone, or we feel like maybe if we change this word, it would go better with this great image or photo that we have.
Yeah.
And so we'll propose that, and you know, usually they'll be like, oh yeah, that's cool, I love that input. And so it's a back and forth. So it's kind of nice to be able to have that relationship with a marketing team.
Definitely, yeah. The collaboration, again, going back to that, you know, it's not butting heads, not one versus the other. It's the combo of the two, and just like you getting creative inspiration from something outside of the field, it's the other way around. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's really cool. You talked about a funny story about superstition and how that played into creating some of these graphics, whether they're winning or losing. I was wondering if you could talk a little about that.
Yeah. So, you know, once the season's over, then you go into the postseason. And then, actually, even before the season's over. So, you know, we like in September, we're about to, I think we're like maybe 2 games away from clinching the National League East championship, right, for the 4th year in a row. Well, you know, we don't know when it's going to be. And then same thing, once we get into the postseason, we're playing the Brewers. We don't know if we're going to beat them yet. And then the next round, we don't know if we're going to beat the Dodgers yet, right? So, and then the World Series and everything else. Well, so our designers, or my team, we had one instance where I think it was like the Dodger series where Ashley was like, hey, I don't want to jinx anything, but I thought I should work on the Braves, World Series graphic. And I said, stop, like, there's no jinxes. Whatever we do does not affect what happens on the field, So I said, we don't have time to be superstitious. I said, let's just get everything ready. So while we were working on the Braves World Champions graphic, we were also working on the graphic that said, thank you fans for a wonderful season in case we lost. So once you get into the postseason, that's where you're getting ready for any kind of scenario, because especially in the World Series, the entire world, or the baseball world, their eyes are on us, right? So we have to make sure that everything's on point, because we don't want to be just like, oh yeah, let's just come up with something, in 2 hours, because it is really important. It's going to get a lot of eyes. It's going to get a lot of engagement. So we got to make sure everything's exactly correct. So that's where, we want to make sure that we spend time to make it right and be prepared for any scenario, whether we win or we lose. There's no superstition in sports creative. You just got to do it. You just got to get done and be prepared.
Yeah, it's funny. I could just see it, if you're creative working on this, like, we lost, you don't want to like write it out, but it's just part of the planning. I mean, without doing it, like you said, you can't do it all in 1 minute. So you have to.
Yeah. I talked to a couple friends in other baseball teams, and we haven't had a no-hitter in a long time. But I'll talk to a player, like a friend who worked in the Padres. I think earlier in the year, one of their pitchers threw a no-hitter, and I was like, what was it like? He's like, oh man, it's so stressful, because in the seventh inning or the sixth inning, you're starting to prepare the graphic for the no-hitter. But like in baseball, everyone's so superstitious, like you don't talk about a no-hitter, and because you're going to jinx it, right? Well, for creatives, like, you can't do that. You've got to have it ready to go, because as soon as that game's over, everybody wants to see that graphic that says, so and so threw a no-hitter, right? So
yeah, that's why you just got to work through that during the field of play. So it makes sense. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't say that that's the same for my field or anything. No superstitions, but something to consider if you're going into sports graphics and not worry about. Very cool. Okay, cool. So we were talking about, you guys are small, but you can pull off huge things. It's really inspiring to see how such a small team can do so much. And on that note, I'd love to end the last section, to talk about brand building. So from the stadium signage or the World Series graphics, your team are always responding to what's going on now, making it relatable to the audience as well. So responding quickly in a relatable way. How does your team measure success of the brand that you're continuing to build, and how do you continue to add to that?
Well, the beauty of digital media now is that we can get the metrics, and we can get that information, so that we are able to see if the creative that we're building or we're making is effective. Actually, 2 weeks ago, I actually did an experiment where our marketing team asked for email graphics for single game tickets on sale for Google. And then I proposed the idea of, can we do one version that has player images and Braves branding and colors and, and everything else? And can we do another version of that same ad with just a blue box with white text and nothing else? So I have not gotten the information on how effective either of those two were, but I'm really curious. But we got a report on our social content for this year, and it was through the roof. And I hope nobody from the Astros is on this call. I don't think they would be, but my goodness, our engagements compared to the Astros during the World Series was leaps and bounds different. Like we were like at least 3 times more engaged than the Astros were. And we have a larger geographic region, there's also a larger fan base because of the legacy fans that we have from when TBS showed broadcasted Braves games all over the country. However, it was really interesting to see just the difference in the amount of people that engaged with us versus the Astros. And obviously, it's not all the design or the creative that impacted that, but I would like to think that we had a small part to play in that, and I count that as success. And then when you come to the ballpark over here at Truist Park, my job is to make sure that all the fans, wherever they are, they have a really great experience. And I just put myself in the shoes of going to my first baseball game when I was a kid, and seeing the baseball players for the first time and seeing the field for the first time, and what a magical moment that was. And these guys are regular people, but to a kid, they're heroes, right? They're superheroes because you can't do what they can do. And so I want to make sure that we elevate them, and we make sure that we show them as superheroes. So whenever we have photography or when our team uses photography of the players, we want to make sure that they look really good and like they look like superheroes or studs, right? So we do our best to do that, but at the same time, it's like we also want to humanize them as well, because we want to make sure that we show them in a way that even they're just people like us too. So it's a fine balance. But so for the brand, I think it's more than just making sure that it's the right Pantone color, it's the right version of the logo that is used. It's making sure that everything from music to that we use on video to the what style of polo are the ushers wearing, right? Is it like black that's kind of aggressive and a little scary looking, or should it be more like a powder blue or something that's a little bit more warm, right? So so I think designers have a say in all that, and I'm fortunate to be in a situation where I'm able to have input on some of those things.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, there's so many aspects of design when it comes to sports, like you're talking about, and it seems like you wear a lot of hats. It's not just social graphics; it's shoes to stadium graphics as well. So it's really cool, the broad range. Again, the small team, and also figuring out how the audience is going to respond, and that's how you're measuring your success. On top of obviously getting the social post stats, that makes total sense as well. So. On brand building too, specifically, you talked to me about For the A and building that campaign. So I'd love for you to tell me a little bit more about that and the success you've had there.
Yeah. So the genesis of that slogan or the campaign is, you look at the Braves hat, it's got this iconic A, right? And for me, it's such a beautiful mark, and it's I love it when I go out of town and I'm wearing my Braves hat and I see another Braves fan wearing that same Braves cap, and we just like make eye contact, and then we just kind of give each other a knowing nod, right? So, and it's funny. It could be someone much older than me or a young kid that's completely different from me, but when we're both wearing that hat, it's like you just kind of give each other a head nod, like, yeah, you know what's up, right? Or like, we're from the A, right? So that's kind of the genesis of it, and the fact that this is our mark, and this is a unifier for all of Braves country. So all of our fans, no matter where they're at, no matter what their background is, or what their political beliefs are, or what their religious beliefs are, what color their skin is, right? It doesn't matter. If you're a Braves fan and you're rocking the A, then it's like we all have something in common. And this year was really special because it was a really hard year, man. It's like this was one of the hardest seasons that I've had in sports, and I think we all share that sentiment. It's like there was so much stuff that we didn't know was going to happen. Just dealing with everything in the country and the world, and it was really hard, and it was really great to see something that brought Atlanta together, that there was a moment where everyone just kind of said, you know what, let's just throw everything, all of our differences aside, and let's support this team, because you know they're underdogs. Nobody predicted that they were gonna win the championship, but like they're doing it. So everybody kind of stopped. You know, everybody was wearing pearl necklaces. We had little kids wearing them. We had old people wearing them. And it was all because everybody was united together, like for the A, right? And so that's kind of the genesis of what we were envisioning 2 years ago when we came up with that campaign slogan. And we wanted to come up with something that people can use and see. And you know, the other thing is, like, these players, you know, they're getting paid millions of dollars, but they said that last year was different because there were no fans in the stands. And this year, it's like they got so much energy from the crowd, because when they played at Truist Park, the crowd was intense. Everybody was screaming and yelling. It was loud, and they said that they definitely fed off the energy of the crowd. And that's kind of like in a microcosm of what For the A is, right? These players are playing for millions of dollars, but also they're playing for the fans, you know. So there's something behind that.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful to what a brand can do. It's bringing people together through a passion, crossing a bunch of different religions, everything. You can bridge the gap with sports, and the branding specifically bringing together. So you know, you can do the head nod when you see somebody else wearing it, or if you're in the crowd. It's really powerful. So it's really cool. You got to work with a brand that has that much weight, and really awesome that you came up with a slogan that's connecting people together. So love that campaign. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about, because another aspect is when you actually go to the field, like you're talking about, there's experiences there that you guys have worked around. What are some of those experiences you've worked on at Truist Park, and how do you come up with those?
Wow.
Just a short version.
Yeah, no. So you know, one of the things, one of the core values of our brand is family friendly. So we double down on that. So we make sure that kids are a focal point in the fan experience at games. So we make sure that we have our kids area where there's a bunch of activities for kids. On Sundays, it's like Kids Sundays, where we have a giveaway for kids, only for kids on those days. And then after the game, we have kids run the field. So there's things like that are part of our core brand DNA that we make sure that is experienced in the ballpark when you come to a game.
That's cool. And then also in Truist, do you do any like major graphics for, I don't know, is there any particular experience that you do outside of bringing in the kids potentially that you do graphics for, or do you plan that on the fly? I'm just asking because I'm curious.
We have sort of a toolkit of parts of designs that we provide our video team, and then they'll take that and then they'll put those up in the scoreboard or the video screens in the ballpark during those events.
Gotcha. And on these particular experiences, do you work with any outside agencies, or is this more of still an internal thing?
So for the video content, there's a company called Ross out of, I think, Pittsburgh, who creates all that, because that's at a technical level that's beyond our creative team's capability. So we'll hand over our assets, they'll create something, and then we'll work with our video team on giving them feedback and input.
Very cool. So yeah, I mean, from building culture and building a brand for the Atlanta Braves, is there anything else that you're looking forward to next year that you're going to take from this year, or how is next year looking in terms of planning for the next season?
Well, you know, we're going to double down on the fact that we're world champions. Just from a business sense, that makes that for us, that's something that makes sense. And also it's for our fans. You know, it's been 26 years, so it's something that they're excited about, and they still will be excited about in 2022. And then, this off season, we're planning our campaign for next year. And then I have the fortunate opportunity to work on our World Series ring with the vendor. So, it's a lot of it's going to be fun. It's a lot of pressure too, but I think I cannot wait to be able to share that with everyone, on opening day, because it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be really special, and it'll be a cool piece that'll tell the story of the 2021 season.
Yes, very cool. To kind of conclude all of this, I guess we're getting closer to the time. I was going to just ask you a few questions now that you've told us all about your background and what you've done for the Braves. Just more a little bit about you yourself, if you don't mind. So I guess the first one would be, do you actually play baseball?
So I grew up playing, recreational baseball as a kid, in junior high and high school and all that. Once I got to a certain age, I realized that I was not going to play professionally, and so I pursued art, which was my other passion. And then it's nice to be able to, work to design for a team that is one of my loves as I was growing up. But
Yeah,
our company is playing our softball tournament right now, so I will be
nice.
going out there in about an hour.
Okay. Oh yeah, close coming up then. That's cool, because I love that, being able to take some of your passion and love for, what you've done, use it in a different way, have that to call back on when you're creating stuff. So that's really cool. Aside from baseball, what are some of your hobbies besides baseball?
I've recently gotten back into cycling and riding my bike a lot. It's just good for fitness, and also it's just a good a mental break to get outside.
Mhm.
And to be honest, I was getting a little overweight, spending all this time at the desk and on my
COVID.
on my butt all day. So I took the opportunity during the lockdown, just because we had that extra time, we didn't have to commute, so to just ride my bike a little bit, and then gotten back into it. It's been really fun, and been passionate about it.
Nice. I actually got a question here from Tad Roberts too. It says, I know you're an excellent illustrator and designer. What percentage of your time is hands-on design work, and how much is creative oversight?
Oh yeah, so that's a really good question. I'm trying to pull myself away more and more from actually designing and delegating that to my team. But so to answer the question, I think right now I'm probably at 40% of my time actually doing the design work, and then 60% of the time kind of managing and art directing.
Yeah, that makes total sense, especially with a team of four. Gonna have to get
Yeah,
your hands dirty.
exactly.
Makes sense. Very cool. All right, last question here. Last question. So, what is one piece of advice you would give someone new to graphic design, and particularly if they want to get into sports design?
Um, my advice would be to look for opportunities when they come up, and work really hard. Um, so if even something as little as small as if somebody asks you, hey, can you design a logo for our rec ball league, right? I mean, that's an opportunity to design something really cool and fun, and you can put that in your portfolio. Or if somebody asks you, hey, we need a flyer for this, even though it's something small, it's like that's an opportunity for you to really show your abilities, right? So I think as a young designer, take advantage of those opportunities when they come up, and work your butt off. Sports design is interesting because well, this is a whole different topic, but sports design, I think, is a little bit different from other fields. But I think it's an interesting culture, and it's fun because you get to do something that whatever you work on, fans get excited about. So it's awesome, but it's also has its negative parts to it.
That makes sense. I mean, it's a fast-paced field there. And I know I said last question, but we did get another question. So I was hoping maybe we could ask this last one, real last one. So you covered this a little, but his question is, in the fast-paced world of social media graphics, how do you manage putting out graphics so quickly without having your team work around the clock and getting burnout?
Yeah, so we, the four of us, we spread it out. So each Monday we put up, we look at the schedule, we have a calendar, and then so one person will get a game during the week, and then those games that we don't cover, we have a template for the social media team so that they can just plug in photos and type in the text. So that's how we're able to do that without burning out. And then we use like Wallpaper Wednesdays, for example, as an opportunity for our creative team to just have a little bit of fun and do something that's interesting. So we'll just go around the table and go, hey, what's a cool idea or concept that you have? Awesome, go with it. Let's create it. So that's what we do.
Love it. Yeah, like rapid prototyping, group inspiration, and then making sure to set those templates up. Go back to that. Everybody on the call, definitely set up templates, because that's how you can get the work done fast.
Well, one thing that I realized working in sports that's different from working in other design fields or working out in a firm, you don't have to do 3 different versions of it or options for everything. It's like everything's so fast paced. It's like you just do one design or one option. Here it is, and you're like, go. We don't have time to noodle with 3 different options. So it's just it's awesome that way, but also sometimes I feel like, man, maybe we don't have time to really explore every idea. So that's where I think I try to find a balance for our team.
Yeah, you mentioned that too. Yeah, make sure to bring your team in for weekly inspirations, pulling in new inspirations, having opportunities like that Wallpaper Wednesdays to kind of shine a little bit more outside of the typical. So that's fantastic. And I mean, it makes sense in such a rapid prototyping situation that you would crank something out, and then on the next time you learn from what you did and you just keep building on it. So that makes sense. But awesome. On that note, Insung, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really real pleasure talking to you. Thank you again, and we really appreciate it. So guys, this is our last Insider for December. We'll be back in February of 2022. So keep a lookout for that, and we'll post this for podcast and on YouTube shortly this month. So again, thank you so much, Insung, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.